Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another week and a new episode of Cinema Smackdown. My name is Drew Bronson, and I'll be honest, I am tired as hell. But man, was it worth it. Now, before we get into everything that went down in Perth at Elimination Chamber, I want to talk about what happened the night prior at TNA No Surrender. So this past Friday night, instead of watching Smackdown, one Friday out of the year, I like to tune in and watch TNA. And this past Friday was TNA No Surrender, which is their February pay-per-view event. It was live in New Orleans, Louisiana. And it is another reason why TNA is definitely back. It was exciting from start to finish with the number one contenders match between Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian all the way to the X Division title match main event. Keep in mind that the X Division hasn't solely main evented a TNA pay-per-view event since 2005. It's been 19 years, so this was a big deal. Not to mention the stars that were in this match that also make this such a big deal, an even bigger deal maybe. But let's start it with what happened first, which was the number one contenders match between Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian, with the winner receiving a TNA world title shot in a few weeks at Sacrifice on Friday, March 8th. Now, Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian are both TNA OGs, and after TNA's revival on the first episode of TNA Impact, the Thursday after Hard to Kill, Frankie Kazarian just blindsided Eric Young out of nowhere and just turned on him, and I guess on the rest of the TNA crowd. So, for about a month now, Eric Young has been wanting to get his hands on Frankie Kazarian, and he finally got that at No Surrender. And these two men went back and forth for a little bit. It was a decent fight. Eric Young was able to walk out on top and is the number one contender and will face the TNA World Champion at Sacrifice. And we'll talk about the TNA match in a little bit because it was definitely an interesting match. After the match, however, Frankie Kazarian just assaulted the TNA official because he got a little salty. I mean, whatever fine it's gonna be, that's on you, Frankie. That's all I can say. You did that to yourself. Moving on, next up, in what I am calling match of the night, the match 3 out of the best of 3 series between ABC and the Grizzled Young Veterans for the TNA World Tag Team titles. For the longest time, I have been wanting GYV to win gold. Even in their recent run in NXT before they left. But that match, in my opinion, was too good to not have them win. It should have been GYV. And they were like about this close, maybe even this close to winning the TNA Tag Gold. But in the end, ABC walked out on top in one of the best tag matches I've seen from TNA thus far since its revival. One day GYV will get that gold. Next up was Khan versus PCO. And this match was all over the place. It was an absolute mess. Not in a bad way, but I mean, this match ended in disqualification after Khan struck PCO with a steel chair. And it didn't stop there. It was neck snap after neck snap from Khan. PCO wouldn't stay down. Eventually it got up to the entranceway. PCO got zip tied to the entranceway. And then just a neck snap from Khan with a steel chair wrapped around his neck. And it looked like PCO didn't stay down. I don't think PCO is even human at this point. I know that's probably been said before, but Friday night. It's been a long day. I got up at 3:30 Saturday. I know it's been said before, But No Surrender was another reason why I believe PCO is not even human. After that, we had Decay defending the Knockouts World titles in a rematch from Hard to Kill against MK Ultra. Man, MK Ultra is one of my favorite tag teams. Especially Killer Kelly. And she's dangerous. I've seen her fight in the ring. She is one of the more lethal women's competitors on the roster. And I wanted MK Ultra to win back the TNA Tag Gold, and they did just that, beating Decay to now become 2-time Knockouts Tag Team Champions. Basically just righting a wrong that happened, because at Hard to Kill last month, it was a tag title match that just came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden Decay came back and won the titles off of MK Ultra, which they now won back this past Friday at No Surrender. This next one, I'll be honest, at this point in the night, I was getting a little tired. Not because of the match, but just because knowing what had to happen the next morning with Elimination Chamber. This next one was Josh Alexander versus Simon Gotch. And, long story short, Alexander hits Gotch with a C4 spike and gets the win. And this next match, for the TNA World Championship, this was a match that I had my eyes on because of the stipulation. For the first time ever, the TNA World title was contested under No Surrender rules, which is a brand new stipulation at the request of Alex Shelley. And here's how it works. Each competitor has a corner man, okay? There are no countouts, no disqualifications, no pinfalls, and no submissions. The only way this match will end is if a competitor's corner man throws in the towel. And this match was absolutely brutal. The length that Alex Shelley went to against Moose to win back the TNA World title, I would not expect from him, because he just doesn't seem like the type of guy to go to such lengths. He literally took the padding off the turnbuckle, like that metal piece that connects the buckle to the ring post, drove Moose's fingers through it, had a wrench, and just started bending the fingers. That was brutal. And it didn't just stop there. There's tables, chairs, kendo sticks, even steel chain. But eventually, after Moose wrapped the steel chain around his body and hit numerous spears to Alex Shelley, Kushida gave himself no choice but to throw in the towel, and Moose is still the TNA World Champion and will be the one to face Eric Young at Sacrifice next month for the title. And then next up, we had the Knockouts World title match. Jordan Grace defending against Ultimate X winner Giselle Shaw, who won the Ultimate X and his title opportunity back at Hard to Kill. And over the past couple of weeks on Impact, it seemed like Giselle Shaw and the Shaw Tourage, Savannah Evans and Jay Vidal, things haven't been going well for them. Shaw eventually fired Vidal and Evans. Then the week following, Evans wanted to prove herself to Giselle Shaw in a 1-1 match against Jordan Grace to give her another chance. Jordan Grace won, and then eventually Giselle Shaw came up and attacked both Grace and Evans. So Giselle Shaw was basically on her own going into this title match against Jordan Grace. And it was a surprisingly good match. I did not expect this performance out of Giselle Shaw. She delivered. The best thing for her that I saw was a Spanish fly she delivered to Jordan Grace from the ring apron down to the floor. Also, Ash by Elegance was sitting ringside, and this happened right in front of her. In the end, one Juggernaut driver, and Jordan Grace is still the Knockouts World Champion. And finally, in the main event, the X Division Championship. And like I mentioned earlier, this not only is it a big deal to have the X Division title in the main event for the first time in 19 years, but the stars of this match make it a bigger deal. It was the champion, Chris Sabin, defending against a man who's making his TNA debut in a title match, Mustafa Ali. And I tried so hard to stay awake and make it to this match. This was one of the must-watch matches I have been wanting to see ever since I found out it was Ali challenging Chris Sabin. And I'd say this is a close second to match of the night with the tag title match that happened earlier on. Because these two men went back and forth. Chris Sabin, he's been a veteran in this business for at least 2 decades. But Ali is such a younger, a little bit more agile star. There were moments where Chris Sabin was able to keep up with Ali, but it wasn't enough. In the end, after a 450 splash from Ali and a 1, 2, 3, we have a brand new X Division champion in Mustafa Ali. And I am happy. No disrespect to Chris Sabin. He is an X Division legend, a 10-time X Division champion. But it's time for someone else to take the reins for a while. I'm sure the legacy of the X Division title will still be there with Ali. But man, No Surrender was a great show. I'd actually say I enjoyed No Surrender more than Hard to Kill last month. And Hard to Kill was good. I loved it. If you haven't checked out No Surrender, it is free and available to watch on TNA Plus, Triller TV, and on YouTube if you are subscribed to Ultimate Insiders. No Surrender was amazing. After No Surrender, I was almost out like a light because I tried so hard to get to sleep, and thankfully I did before getting up at 3:30 in the morning here on the East Coast before Elimination Chamber. And it was an insane show. So the night kicked off. On the kickoff show, we had the women's tag title match between the Kabuki Warriors, the defending champions, and the team of Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, who was having her own homecoming going back to Australia. But the previous night on Smackdown, I saw that they announced for next week that it would be the Kabuki Warriors versus Damage Control. The Kabuki Warriors against Bayley and Dakota Kai. So, one of my friends messaged in our group chat that they basically just spoiled the kickoff show match, revealing that there's going to be a tag match this coming Friday on Smackdown. I mean, in the end, I wanted the Kabuki Warriors to retain. I didn't think Candice LeRae and the Indy Hartwell were going to win. Not when the Kabuki Warriors are only about a month into their title reign. Not happening. All due respect to Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae, of course. So, the Kabuki Warriors were able to retain the Women's Tag Team Championship and will go on Friday to face Bayley and Dakota Kai. Then, on the main card, things got started off with the Women's Elimination Chamber match. It had Becky Lynch, Tiffany Stratton, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, and Naomi. And although it was predictable that Becky Lynch was going to win, and she did, Tiffany Stratton showed out. Also, keep in mind, I said this last week, she's only been on SmackDown for a few weeks, and she's already won, already made it to her first PLE on the main roster, and of all things, it's the Elimination Chamber for an opportunity to face the Women's World Champion at WrestleMania, and she was handpicked for a qualifier. People are really starting to recognize the talent that Tiffany Stratton possesses, and the crowd in Perth knew that as well. They've been chanting for Tiffany Stratton for almost the whole match, and unfortunately Tiffany didn't win, but Tiffy's time will come. I promise you that. But as it stands, Becky Lynch won the Women's Chamber and will go on to face the Women's World Champion at WrestleMania. Then after that, we had the tag title match. It was the Judgment Day's Finn Balor and Damian Priest defending against the new Catch Republic, the team of Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. And Michael Cole explained why they picked that name, because it's a way for them to pay homage to the British style of wrestling, the British wrestling style, which I thought was interesting, but it's going to take some time for me to get used to calling them that. But I think eventually it'll stick with me. And this was a good tag match, but I honestly say that the one at No Surrender for the TNA tag titles was better, but this one was still a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. The Damian Priest and Finn Balor were able to retain the undisputed tag team titles against the new Catch Republic. Then after that, it was time for the Grayson Waller effect, the biggest one that Grayson Waller has done, with guests Cody Rhodes and the World Heavyweight Champion Seth freaking Rollins. Now, a lot happened, but one of the big things coming out of it was that between now and WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes just basically issued a challenge to The Rock to face him one-on-one prior to fighting Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, which, in my opinion, may not be the smartest idea. It seems like Cody Rhodes is biting off more than he can chew. I mean, you're talking about The Rock. It's The Rock. You can't win against him on the mic, and the only way you're winning against him in the ring is a miracle. Now, I'm not saying that's how it's going to work at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is a massive star, but so is The Rock. He's one of the biggest stars in wrestling and in Hollywood. It's going to take so much if you were to actually beat him, alright? Eventually, Austin Theory started doing his Rock impression, stealing the mic from Grayson Waller at that, which was a little weird, because Grayson had this look on his face. It was like, dude, what are you doing, really? And then, eventually, Rhodes and Rollins started attacking Theory, and Waller is just chilling on the top rope, lounging and just watching it all happen. So, I guess that could be the end of A-Town Down Under. But we'll see if there's more developments to that this Friday on Smackdown. After that, we have the men's Elimination Chamber match, with the winner facing Seth freaking Rollins at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship. This match consisted of Bobby Lashley, Kevin Owens, Logan Paul, Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, and I always hate it when I forget one of the stars that was in the Elimination Chamber. LA Knight. My bad. Yeah, so Knight, Paul, McIntyre, Orton, Lashley, and Kevin Owens all competing for an opportunity inside the chamber to face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. And this match was also predictable as well. All the matches felt pretty predictable, but what happened in this chamber match, I did not expect to go down. You had Bobby Lashley toss Kevin Owens through the side of one of the pods, and then spear Logan Paul through another pod. Kevin Owens is acting like a rabid animal inside the pod where Logan was making his entrance. That meme is taking Twitter by storm. I love it. Also, not to mention that Kevin Owens arrived earlier that day to the arena holding a koala. I think KO is almost reaching national treasure status with moments like that. But he's not R-Truth level national treasure, and he was watching all the way out in Austria. R-Truth thought everything was going down in Austria instead of Australia. So I'm saying truth needs to be protected at all costs. But going back to the men's chamber, it was intense. And eventually, Drew McIntyre was able to win after getting an assist of sorts from Logan Paul after Randy Orton eliminated Logan Paul from the chamber. Sometime later, Logan Paul just knocked him out with brass knuckles, and Drew McIntyre took advantage, got the win, and will be facing Seth Rollins at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship. And when I saw after the Waller effect that it was the men's chamber match, I knew exactly that the booking of this show was perfect, because the main event of the night was Nia Jax versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. And this match, it was good. The hometown advantage, the crowd when Rhea Ripley came out was absolutely deafening. It was insane. And Rhea Ripley was able to manage a superplex off the top rope to Nia Jax, which I thought the ring was going to break. That is a lot crashing down on that mat. But in the end, Rhea Ripley, no surprise to me at least, was able to retain the Women's World Championship, and it will be Mommy versus the Man at WrestleMania for the Women's World Championship. Unfortunately, I was able to go back to sleep after the chamber, so it was a bit of a rough Saturday. That's it for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed. You know the drill, and I'm going to try and go and get some sleep. See y'all next week.